Welcome back to another week in the markets. Today is Friday, August 14th, 2026, and this is going to be my stock market analysis for the stock market, obviously. So, we're going to go ahead and get started. I am going to throw some new lines on here. So, let me go ahead and get rid of everything. But before I do that, I do want to talk a little bit about where we were last week. And so, last week, if we look at Friday, we were right here, right? So, I was predicting that if we made it past this blue line right here, that'd be really good. If you want to see the entire video as to why I made that decision or that bias, I had that bias or whatever, then just go ahead and check out the previous video. Just go click on my channel and you'll see why I was going there. We're going to take a look at Bitcoin later on today as well. I was pretty bearish on Bitcoin and it looks like the breakdown has begun. I'll show you a little bit about what I'm talking about once I clear the drawings because I'm going to put new drawings on there. So let's get started. Okay, so at the monthly time frame, we basically still have this rising wedge, which is no surprise because it moves and changes so slowly. We're still above the rising wedge. So basically, as long as we stay above this yellow line, which when I zoom into the weekly time frame will make more sense, as long as we stay above this yellow line, which is pretty safe at this point because we're going up, although the volume has been decreasing quite a bit on the way up, so maybe not. We will get into why that is here in a bit. But yeah, for monthly time frame, as long as we stay above the yellow line here, which is low 7300s or so, then we should be good. Or I guess high 73s all the way to the 74s and 7500. I mean, it keeps going up as the line goes across. But yeah, this is going to be our major line of support because we're above it over the long term, right? Months. So as long as we stay above that, that's good. There's still a good chance that we continue going up. But let me throw some lines on the weekly time frame now so we can see what's going on there. And these lines are going to be green. Very nice swings on the weekly time frame, but it's not looking good for the bullishness of the market. And in order to show you that, I'm going to go ahead and zoom in even more to the daily time frame. This is the time frame that's really going to matter for what I'm looking at. And once again, I'll throw some lines on here. So last week, I didn't know if I was using the logarithmic or the linear chart. I now am using the logarithmic. So the lines are probably going to be a little bit different, but that should be okay. So here you can see it's kind of sort of a symmetrical triangle. And like I've been saying for a while, because this has been going on for a while, even though it's at the daily time frame, what we really had was a big move from down here pretty much to here. And then we had a consolidation period right here. And then this right here, what we're seeing now is the breakout, right? So this is a typical bear flag, or really more of a bear pennant because it's the triangle pattern. And once again, I'll really quickly explain the difference. So you have either a triangle at the top, which is what we have currently. Well, what we had because we broke out of that now. And then you can also have a flag on top, which is just a channel, right? So either the price action moves between a smaller and smaller space, or it continues almost like in a channel, even though the channel will be trending towards the downside, but eventually both of them break out. That's basically what we're experiencing here now. The problem with further breakout is we're about to hit the green line of the weekly time frame resistance. So even though this is really bullish, it's not necessarily going to be easy to make it past this. But the real problem is also going to be even a little bit higher after this. Like we could very realistically, because basically at this point, I'm pretty sure we're going to keep going up just based on this, right? So let me backtrack a little bit more. So last week we had this line of resistance here. And where do I get that? Because right here, right? We never closed. I only use the high or the open and close. The wicks do matter, but only for entry and exit purposes. For me, that's how I like to manage my stuff. But when I'm actually putting lines on here, I don't care about the wicks too much. So up until this point, this is where the highest we got, right? Either an open or a close. And then we continued to try to get up here and kind of failed or something, you know, did whatever. And then boom, we're up. But if you zoom in a little bit more, now remember the pattern that I told you here, right? This one is huge. This pattern from down here all the way up to here and then the consolidation here is the bear pennant or bear flag, depending on how you're looking at it. If it had kept going, then the triangle would form, right? Somewhere over here, perhaps. Like if I stretch this out, you can see the triangle a lot better. See how it's pinching and pinching and pinching towards the end. So, I mean, that would be a really, really long triangle. So anyway, That's the pattern, right? But if you look at what's happening here, we have a very similar thing. It's just really hard to see at the daily time frame. So if I zoom in to a 4-hour time frame and I put some lines on it, well, putting the line on top up here is kind of bad because technically I connect the closes. So that means that would have to look like that, which doesn't look that good. And it doesn't really look like a pattern. But the thing is, we had a line of support down here, and let's just humor this for a moment, right? So here we have a little bit of a triangle with a breakout. And this is a rough picture, right? It's not poster child, bear pennant, bull pennant, whatever, but it is a pennant, right? Now look, from here to here, we have the drastic increase up, and then we have the consolidation in here, right? Technically, we have the top, a bottom, second top, and second bottom. And then we started the breakout, right? And you can tell by the orange line here that we've made it above that, and now we're retesting, which I always talk about in my videos is the retest, right? Anytime you have some level of resistance and your price is doing stuff over here, when it finally makes it above, everybody thinks it's just go time, right? To the moon, and that's how you end up losing all your money. But almost always there's a retest, right? The retest right here is what we're experiencing right here. If this line is the orange line, right? And then we're able to continue the move up. And then it becomes a valid move, right? But again, we also have to look at the volume. If the volume is not supporting the move, then that's not good. So it's always very complicated, but I try to make it as simple as possible. So let me get rid of some of this stuff. And actually a couple of these lines as well. There we go. So anyway, this whole area here was a consolidation, right? And from here, because this was the highest point we had gotten to up until this point, whether we closed there or not, it was still a high because that's where it opened. It just went down that day. So anyway, that's why I chose this as my, I guess, line in the sand last week. And I said, if we get above this next week, that'll be really good. And it took a few days, right? The week started out slowly and then we finally made it out. But now we're retesting, right? But here's the problem. So let me go back to daily time frame. So here's the problem for next week. And I'll get rid of this line because that doesn't matter anymore. Okay, so the problem with next week is we are retesting this orange line. And it'll likely be a solid retest. Why? Because the volume is pretty low on the way down, right? Red candle, low volume is good if you're looking at a move that's going up. See, like here we had pretty good volume, still not like really good volume. Like if you look at this above average volume with a gap and a big green candle is good, right? That's really good for a single candle. But over here, the volume just hasn't been there, right? And we are retesting now, which maybe that's why the volume is not there. We don't know yet. But here's the problem. We could still have this much room to go up. But when we hit this green line of resistance, it's going to be trouble, right? So the 7900s, as soon as it starts getting into that room, we're going to have trouble, right? Because here, even if Monday, this is Monday right here, even if Monday we jump up, this is 78.92 right here, right? And let me just put a line at 7,900. Okay, so there's 7,900, right? So from where we are, which is 7,700 to 7,900, could easily go up there. But as soon as we start hitting this green line, it's going to be trouble. And then the other issue is, like I've been saying in the videos as well, when we get close to 8,000, that's really going to be a problem, right? Because time and time again, every time we hit 1,000, 2,000, 3, 4, 5, 6,000, 7,000, right? 7,000, I'll show you real quick what happened last time. Let me just add some text here so I know that's 8,000. So 7,000, well, I guess I should put a line like I did last time. Let me set it to 7,000. And let's go back to what happened when we were getting close to 7,000. And you're going to see the amount of attempts it took for it to get across, right? Which is right here. So I would say this was like the first real attempt in October, late October. And it tried and tried and tried and tried and tried and tried again until finally, like 6 months later, mid-April, we finally broke through. And even then, right? Even then, look, we had this yellow line of support. This is pretty much what I'm expecting right here, but at a different time frame, right? This right here is what I'm expecting to see over the next week or two, possibly, depending on how fast or slow we move up to that green line, to happen again, right? All the candles just kind of smash against the line, but except this time it's going to be the green line, right? Because look, now we have the green line here, and we also have 7,900. Now, if we are able, so again, my bias right now is still bullish, right? But we have to see the volume increase. If we start seeing candles up here and the volume is still super low, that is not going to hold, right? That is like, you better be selling at that point if you're trading with big moves up and low volume. And we're also topping out with the RSI, right? So it's like we have just a little bit more room to go before things start coming back down. And once we start getting to this area over here, which, let me see if I can change my drawing color here to a different color. So once we're in the green circle, then things can go a little bit differently, right? It depends on if we stay, I guess, to the left side or to the right side of the green line. Like if we're over here in this area, that's not very good. We could go sideways for a while. If we're here, then the chances of us continuing up and blasting through 8,000 are a lot higher. But I still think over the next couple of weeks, we're going to be topping out, especially because we have the RSI here. We're about to hit 7,900, which is resistance. Like normally, right? Whole numbers are resistance for some reason or another. Maybe because a lot of people just put their pricing at whole numbers, although you shouldn't do that. But anyway, that's a whole nother topic. But yeah, we basically for next week, because we're all the way down here, we are successfully retesting this move, right, to the back down to the orange. And then we have this much room to go, which is basically about 1.5%, right? So 1.5% or so, 1.6, that we could potentially go up over the next week. Now, again, that doesn't mean that that's what's going to happen, but the probabilities are there based on everything I'm seeing. And then once we hit 7,900, or really this green line, then things are going to start getting rocky. And at that point, that's why I do the videos every week, right? Because I got to keep on top of what's going on for myself. And then obviously I'm sharing it with everybody else, which reminds me, if you have learned anything, hit the like button. Really appreciate it. So yeah, next week, very good chance that we keep going up, but it's not going to be like buy, because you're going to get rich. It's like, it's the little bit of move left before the RSI is cooking red hot and before we hit a major line of resistance and another line of resistance. And even if we blast through that, we still have the huge level of resistance at 8,000. So I think this week we're going to be going up, but then the next 2 weeks are going to get real rocky real fast. The cool thing about technical analysis is I'm just looking at the charts and putting lines on it, trying to identify trends and all that stuff. But then you see that some crazy shit happens in the real world, right? And then the candles move and adapt and change in a way that actually fits the lines, which is crazy, right? It's like you're predicting the future in a way, but you just don't know what the future is. You just know what the future might look like, right? So it's very interesting doing this stuff. And I mean, the lines are the lines, right? Like the monthly time frame has held for a long time. Like, look, we had this line here, and then even this one here, right? That it held to like on point. Like, I mean, you can't make it up. So anyway, that's going to be the S&P 500, which is basically a stock market at this point, right? Really good chance that we continue moving up as long as we have higher volume or increasing volume. Really, that's the term that I like, increasing volume. And then once we start hitting the 7,900s, that's when things could get a little bit rocky. So maybe one more week left before things get crazy. And then next week I'll be back to make another video. But don't click off yet, because now I got to talk about Bitcoin. Although this one's going to be pretty short. So Bitcoin, basically, we were in a rising wedge, and I'll just go back to the monthly time frame, but Bitcoin hasn't really changed a lot. I mean, it's doing stuff, but it's not really, it's like preparing to really do stuff. But monthly time frame, I can't really put lines on this because of the rounded nature of the move, I guess you could say, but it is an inverse cup and handle, right? And there's a very good chance that we have our handle forming here over the next few months, which means even if we're going up, it doesn't necessarily mean that Bitcoin's taking off. I'm really bearish on Bitcoin for the foreseeable future, right? I mean, each one of these candles is a month. So you could say a few more months of potential move up, which already and I'll show you here in a second, it's not really looking like that's going to be, at least August is not looking like it's going to be a bullish month for Bitcoin. But based on this pattern, we could still have a few months of moving up, right, with Bitcoin before we come back down. I really think the 30s are going to be the real bottom for Bitcoin over the next year or so, maybe two, I don't know. But we'll see. Weekly time frame, pretty much the same thing. Inverse cup and handle right here, right? Like that's the latest move. And look, I've been talking about this for a while, right? I've been talking about the handle right here. And look at that. It's just forming and forming it like it's going this way. And then boom. So that's monthly time frame. We have bearish pattern. Weekly time frame, we have a bearish pattern. And look at the daily time frame, right? So daily time frame, we had a rising wedge. You can look at the white lines here. We had the breakdown from the rising wedge, right? We had a loss of what, 5% from pretty much here down to here. And then the interesting thing, what I call chart Tai Chi, right? As the chart is moving and forming different patterns, flowing into the next pattern, all that stuff. Now, even though this was part of a rising wedge, it's now part of a symmetrical triangle, which might be hard to see until I do a little bit of this. Let me show you, right? So once you see that, then you see, okay, that is definitely a triangle. Now, the other thing, because I like connecting swings, right? That's how I do my technical analysis. I can connect this to this one. And if I do that, it does change a little bit. And it changes into a rising or a falling wedge, which is actually bullish. But the problem here is the 200 moving average is coming down. We just closed below the 50 moving average. And so no matter which way you look at it, even, and I'll color these differently so we can look at it from a different perspective. I'll just say maybe pink for the falling wedge. Although one of them is going to be symmetrical triangle as well. So I guess, I don't know how to make it. Okay, that's fine. We'll just say the top red and the green are one pattern, and then the two reds or pinks or whatever are another pattern. Okay, so one way. So okay, first let me talk about symmetrical triangles. Right, symmetrical triangles, time and time again, have shown that once you get to the tip, right, which is basically where the triangle starts to close, or you get about 80% of the way to where it starts to close, the breakout, which means it goes up, or the breakdown, which means it goes down, starts to happen. And how do you know when it's happening? When the candles are starting to close outside of the pattern, right? So here we have the green line and the pink line. We're starting to see the candles close below the green line. Now, again, retest, huge, right? Just because we start going down this way doesn't mean that we can't come back and then go up. It's crazy, but that also happens a lot. And symmetrical triangles, for that reason, as reliable as they are, like once you see a symmetrical triangle, you can easily put a chart on a symmetrical triangle, but then you have to be super careful for your entry, right? Because even right now, as bearish as it's looking, it could just continue to go down, or it can retest, touch the green line. Because, okay, it can touch the green line as the retest. So it's going this way, goes down a little bit, touches the green line, and then it continues to go down, right? Or it just comes back up, right? And then what I like to do is basically I put a horizontal line, because pretty much every single time a symmetrical triangle is going to have the ability, like it's going to be symmetrical enough and horizontal enough, I guess, that you can put a horizontal line at where the tip would be. And so that, to me, in my experience, is kind of the point of no return. Like if we start closing above this orange line, then maybe that invalidates the move to the downside and the possibility of the symmetrical triangle. Because again, it can go up or down, right? The only thing about symmetrical triangles is they're very reliable. Like once the move has begun, truly, then it continues, right? And here we can easily put it on a potential move, right? So if we go from here all the way to roughly around here, and that's a horrible line. Let me try that again. Okay, so symmetrical triangle, potential breakout or breakdown range. If we go down, it could go into the 50s. Very realistic, right? But if it goes up, then it can go into the high 60s, which is not a huge move for Bitcoin. But I mean, it is what it is, right? So this is a very detailed breakdown of the symmetrical triangle, but here's the other layer, right? The deeper layer of what's going on with Bitcoin as well. We have potentially a falling wedge. And how are we going to know which one is the right one? Because we don't know right now, right? We have to wait. So here's where it gets even trickier, because technically it can be a symmetrical triangle now, yes. And I believe it's a symmetrical triangle. But if these two pink lines hold, as in we continue to go down, because here is the top, bottom, top, the next pattern. Like if this is a genuine pattern, then it should go to the bottom, which should be right here, right? And so we started here, 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 and then theoretically we should be going down here if it's the falling wedge. But that's the thing. Even if it's a symmetrical triangle, the breakdown is not very far from the wedge. So we could go down this way and then maybe recover a little bit and then keep going down, right? Because when the breakdown happens, it's not going to just one day go straight down all the way. I have seen breakdowns happen where it's almost like in a day or two, it just, implodes or explodes up or down, whatever. But most of the time, no stock or whatever moves straight down or straight up. So Bitcoin's at a very complicated area of movement, I guess. But here's like the key information for Bitcoin. The 50 moving average, let me get rid of these yellow lines because they're a bit confusing. Actually, I mean, my chart's a mess. Now you see how my charts become a mess. But hey, this technical analysis works really well. So anyway, the key thing about Bitcoin is no matter what, as long as we stay below the 50 moving average, which is the yellow line here, things are going to continue to be pretty bearish. Now, over the next couple of days, because the weekend is here, the volume is going to be low. And you can look at the volume, weekend. Like you don't even have to know. Okay, maybe here, maybe this was even like an extra long holiday or something. But look, weekend, like you can tell way as far back as you can see, weekend. So the volume is really low on the weekend. So we can't really trust whatever happens over the weekend, because come Monday, whatever that move is, typically that's the direction we're going, right? Like here, look, over the weekend, we did absolutely nothing. And then come Monday, boom, right? Immediate, back down, and then continued with increasing volume, right? Down, move in the candles, increasing volume, and look at that, we're still going down. So with Bitcoin, I'm still bearish, even over the short term, right? I think this is going to be our key area for the next week or two, potentially, right? I'm going to check next week, but yeah, basically I'm still bearish with Bitcoin. And I really think over the next few weeks, it's got a good chance of coming down here. Now, like I said, at the monthly time frame and at the weekly time frame, we still have to form the handles. So at the monthly time frame, if you look at any one of these candlesticks, the amount of price movement is crazy. Like it goes, this one, the low was 60,000 and the high was 79,000 in February. So even though this looks insignificant, when you zoom into the daily time frame, it's huge, right? Like it just huge moves. Weekly time frame, same thing. But the fact remains that at the monthly time frame and at the weekly time frame, we are forming patterns that are bearish, and the daily time frame is, I mean, it's just, I don't know. You can't really trust the daily movement. So that's why you always have to look at different timelines with stuff. But anyway, I'm going to try to wrap the video up now. And for Bitcoin, I really think this is going to be the key area for the next week or two. But again, over the long term, looking very bearish. If you ask me, a lot of people are saying that the bottom is in, or we are getting close to the bottom. I don't think so. Based on the technical analysis, I really don't think so. But obviously, we'll find out. So anyway, that's going to be it for this week. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to hit the like button. If you want to see the video again with a new update, subscribe so you can check it out next week. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.